everyone, welcome back to Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen. Hello.
Hello.
We have, I think, a very cool or two cool guests today because I never knew this existed. So ladies, please introduce yourselves, and I think our listeners are going to love it.
I'm Sunshine. I am the president and co-founder of Surrogacy Is. This is an organization that I started with my husband in 2020, and about 3 months into it, I realized I need help. And Casey came aboard, so I love her. I'm a 3-time surrogate. I am a former high school English teacher. I am a mom. I was a teen mom. I have a 24-year-old. Son lives in Washington State. And then I also have adopted my daughter, my youngest. She is 9 and she's starting 4th grade tomorrow.
My name is Casey Bojorquez. Try saying that if you phonetically read it. It's always fun to listen to them try to pronounce that. 2-time surrogate. My first journey, he actually just turned 13 yesterday. So I had a call with him and the parents, and it's funny because he sounds like a teenager now. So it's short and sweet. And I'm like, what is this little man that I hear on the other end? So that's a lot of fun. Like many of us do in this industry, I went on to do my second journey a few years later, just because I fell in love with everything that surrogacy is. And and worked for see how I did that?
Little pun there. Yeah, okay, like it. Took me a sec.
When worked for an agency, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I thought I was going to save the world that way, and then came into the world of surrogacy and fell in love with it, and was a director of surrogacy outreach for 7 years. And that's where I met Sunshine, and kind of the rest is history. We have a joke, an ongoing joke, that I jumped onto their boat because, like she had mentioned, they had started the company. 3 months into it, I said, hey, I've got all these ideas and I want to be a part of it. So let me be a part of it. So I'm one of the founders of Surrogacy as the vice president. And we've been doing some really pretty cool stuff. So we're super excited to be on with you guys and kind of share a little bit about what we've been doing over the last few years.
I'm excited to talk to you guys. You guys, no pun intended, but like our rays of sunshines, like already, like you guys are just so like, I'm so excited to like jump into this and ask you like a million questions.
I want to make a comment on I went and did the research and tried to come up with like some questions just to kind of guide us, but we always go off on tangents.
Such good questions. I was reading through them and I was like, how come more people don't ask us all these questions?
Oh, thanks. Looking at your website, and what really stuck out to me was how friendly the conversation was, like the statements, and that like you talk like you're literally talking to an individual. It didn't look like it was gotten from a book, and then it was just plain language. I laughed a couple of times. I was like, oh, look at that. Like I would have said that. Wait a minute. So it really, and then it made me look further and further and further. So it kept me on your site for a while.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. I wish Kyle could hear you say that. Kyle and I wrote most of that, most of the copy that's on our website. And it is like, I'm not the talker. Casey's the talker. She can talk to all the people. I like to hide in my hidey hole and do all the background things, but I love to write and I love to communicate that way. So that's all my heart and soul in that writing. And that's, so we are talking to women. We're talking to real human women.
Women to women. That's right. That's what I got from the website. So, I mean, the biggest question is, how did it come to be? Like, Sunshine, why did you think there was a need?
Well, I started my first surrogacy journey without any real understanding. Like it was kind of on a whim. That's just the way I do everything. Like I just ran up here from these puppies that I'm fostering because I'm like, I want to foster puppies. And then, 5 days later, they're in my kitchen finger painting with their feces. So, that's kind of how I got into surrogacy. I was like, I want to do something. I want to do something big. And I had a friend who had done it and I watched her journeys and I thought she's really cool. Like she's so giving and has such a big heart and she's so loving. And I'm not really like that. I'm more pragmatic and like doing things that are best for my family, not really so much thinking about what's best for others. But surrogacy has kind of changed that about me because I realized how much joy I get from giving to others. What I really wanted to get out of surrogacy, to be 100% frank, was a down payment to buy a home in Southern California. I was like, what are creative ways that women can come up with money when you already have a full-time job? I was teaching high school and I had 7 preps and I was the only English teacher in so I was busy. Like I didn't have extra time, but I needed extra income, and teachers are notoriously underpaid. So
yes, you are. Yes, they
this
are.
was my creative solution. And I got into surrogacy. My friend had done it. She was like, oh, go to this agency. I used them. And so I was like, okay, cool. And I went to that agency and I had a beautiful match with my intended parents. I love them. I carried twins, which was silly. And I always encourage people not to do that on purpose if they can help it.
How long ago?
I just was so naive. I was like, whatever, I'm just going to do whatever the agency says is best and whatever they say. And I'm just going to kind of go with the flow, and I trust them. They're the experts. But I didn't really have a lot of support. And so at the end, I kind of felt like I did an independent journey, even though I had agency support. I didn't know I had a case manager. I had a case manager. I found out years later when the agency applied to try to work with us. And I was like, can I tell you why we're probably not going to refer surrogates to you? This was my experience. And they were like, oh, you did have a case manager. She doesn't work here anymore. She was really bad. But like, how does a whole journey go by and you never met your case manager?
Right.
Yeah.
So that wasn't good. So then I went to do another journey, like a year and a half later. I got the itch again. I was like, I want to do this again. I really thought I would just do it once. And I was like, I'm going to find a better agency. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to Google and I'm going to spend some time and I'm going to talk to lots of different agencies. And I did. And I chose an agency and I thought they were great. They were so warm and loving and wonderful in the conversations and intake. And I think that they are, still, I don't think they meant not to do a good job, but there were so many things that they didn't do that I wish they would have done. And I think they could have done. And I think that their priorities were off. And so when I got into working in surrogacy, after I decided to leave teaching because I became obsessed with surrogacy, like so many of us do.
Yeah.
I got a job as an intake coordinator at a large agency. And I got to kind of see behind the curtain, and I didn't love what I was seeing as far as the way that the women who were being recruited were being treated and respected. Like we were asking them all the questions about what are your preferences for matching? What are you looking for in your journey? Blah, blah, blah. And then we were just automatically like flushing that all down the drain and saying, okay, you're going to be matched with these intended parents. They don't speak any English. You're not going to meet them. They're in China, and I was like, this feels so wrong. Like, this is not why I left teaching to get into an industry that I love. This isn't what I want to be doing. It didn't feel right. And so I left and got a job as a case manager at another agency, which is where I met Casey. And at that agency, it was so different. It was so centered on the experience of the humans that are in the equation, the intended parents and the surrogate who is signed up to help them and the baby that they're going to have. And how do we make sure that we get ahead and we're 3 steps ahead of everything that's going to happen so that they don't have to worry? And they never even really know how much we're doing behind the scenes, but they never wonder, and they're never lost, and they're never alone. And I loved that model, but I ultimately left to join my husband, and we started a marketing company. And he was like, these surrogacy agencies are not talking to the women who want to be surrogates. Like, can you imagine ever responding to one of these ads and signing up to be a surrogate? I was like, absolutely not. These are so atrocious. I would never, like, it makes me want to run away. Like, so anyway, that was how the dream kind of came to be. He was like, we could do this better. And I was like, yes, we can. Let's get to know all the agencies and then peel back the curtain and tell women the truth. Like, this is what this agency is like. This is what they have to offer. This is what this agency is like. This is what they have to offer. Here are some of their setbacks. Here are some of their strengths. And
you as a surrogate, you don't know what you don't know through this process, right?
And every website looks the same, they all say the same thing. They all say the same thing. But
they hit you with a big number of money, which is not what you're going to get.
Yeah, and then they
And-
change it after the
Right.
fact. They lure you in with that.
Or
and
they
then
make you think that's the
change it.
base and all those extras are the extras, and they're not.
And they're
right?
not.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think when Surrogacy Is was created, the idea was to be able to give a place, a platform for surrogates to feel appreciated and heard in what they were truly looking for in that journey, whether it be matching preference, compensation, whatever that looked like, right? Because that looks different for every surrogate coming into this process. But then how do you know that that agency is following the ASRM guidelines? How do you know that agency is showing up and supporting the surrogate? So we've took a lot of time in vetting the agencies, the questionnaires that we've asked. We've had the opportunity to really go behind the scenes and see exactly how is this agency doing it? Are they offering a life insurance policy of $250,000? Because that's a joke, right? I want to see the agencies with a minimum of 500,000, but we like to push the envelope, but we want to see 750, because I know as a mom with 4 kids, a 17-year-old ranging to a 1-year-old, my husband would kill me if I left him to manage 4 kids with $250,000.
bring you back and kill you again.
Right.
We would do it again.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that you don't know what you don't know when you're going through this process. And for Surrogacy Is, what we were trying to accomplish is that education piece, bringing back the power back to the surrogate that I don't really think has ever been there. And I know that's a very controversial conversation to have,
but it's true.
It's true. The agency is banking that you're gonna Google best agency, top one on the ads that have been paid. They're going to go and apply there, and they're not going to do any more research. They're not going to know that there are other options. They're going to be told by that agency that this is you have the best option, and aren't you so lucky you found us? And they're hoping and banking that surrogate's not going to do research. But the women that we have the opportunity to support and educate, we are on fire to show them and educate and explain to them all of those pieces. So we want to make sure it's safe for her because she's a mom first, right? So we want to verify, and we want to know her pregnancy history. We want to know all of the things that essentially she's going to do with an intake. We're going to do ahead of time. Go through, she's going to understand that she's going to have her background, psychological screening, home visit done with the agency, but they're going to collect her records. They're going to make sure it's safe for her to be a surrogate. And then she then is going to be presented, we're going to shop her options. So she's going to have a few agencies review her profile and say, oh my gosh, I have 4 parents that I think would be a great option, or 10 parents that I think would be a great option. We want to work with her, and we think we can offer her a base of 45,000 or 50,000, and then we'll present those options to the surrogate, and now she has choice in that.
Oh, that's very cool.
Very cool.
So you guys are doing a lot of,
Yeah.
I mean, you vetted the agencies, and I think, was it 32% that apply? Make it through
and it's probably less than that too, because sometimes what happens is we'll bring on an agency because we've met the owners and they've said all the right things, and on paper they're checking all the boxes, and then we send them, we have a few surrogates that choose them and start going through their process, and then they tell us like, this is not happening, or this is so hard I can't reach somebody on the phone. And then we'll tell the agency like, our surrogates are complaining that they can't reach their case manager on the phone. Can you make sure that this happens? And every agency is going to make mistakes or can do things better. And the agencies that we love hear that feedback and want to improve and do better. But there are some agencies that consider us to be a little bit of a nuisance, or
I can see that. I don't think you are, but I can see
they don't want someone meddling. They don't want someone holding them
Don't
accountable.
tell me how to run an agency.
She's ours. Like, and we're like, no, she is telling us what's happening, and we're going to tell everyone what's happening unless you fix it and do better. So most of the agencies apply that feedback and do better, but there are some who resist it. They're stuck in their ways, or their ego's too big, or whatever the thing is. And we end up having to stop referring that agency as an option. And so that happens too. And that's always really sad when that happens, because we want every agency that we work with to be successful. We're not anti-agency. We love surrogacy agencies. I think agencies are so important. Intended parents are so important, but the surrogates are, I think, the most vulnerable person in the equation. A lot of agencies think that intended parents are vulnerable because that's the story that they hear first. They hear the struggle, and they hear the sadness and the hardship and how expensive and all of these things. And so they have that they're leading with. But what we're able to do at Surrogacy is consider the surrogate as a whole person and think about her and what she needs. And then this is somebody who's, volunteering to put her body through IVF for someone, and to carry a pregnancy, and to give birth to a baby, and to have her breast milk come in, and maybe pump, and maybe suppress, and maybe have a C-section, and maybe have an episiotomy, and definitely wear a diaper for 6 weeks, and her hair is going to fall out, and her body's going to change, and she's going to miss a lot of work for appointments, and her husband's going to feel the pressure of the extra burden that he's taking on. And her mother-in-law is going to give her a hard time and make her feel guilty, and other people are going to make her feel ashamed. And these are all the things that we sign up to do as surrogates. And that's where our heart is supporting those women and lifting them up, because if they're well supported and they're empowered, then the intended parents are going to have a better experience too. But nobody's entitled to the use of another human being's body, whether they're infertile, or they're cancer survivors, or they're gay dads, or, whatever the case may be. You're not entitled to the use of somebody's body and all the things that they go through. It's not a transaction. No matter how much a surrogate is paid, it's not a transaction. She's changing her life in this process, and your life is going to change, and you're going to hopefully walk away with a healthy baby that you get to take home. And that's priceless. So I think that what our goal really is with Surrogacy is to shine light on surrogates and the women who do this, because we do so much. We go through a lot, and we sign up, and we're happy to do it. Like, we want to do it. We want to help somebody. We know what we're getting into for the most part. IVF is like a whole other roller coaster that a lot of times people are like, I've seen the doctor so many times in my pregnancy as I did the first 6 weeks of an IVF pregnancy. Like, I didn't know I was going to miss all this much work. I didn't know all this was going to happen, but we sign up to do it, and we love helping people. And surrogates I just think in general, are really giving and really easy to take advantage of that giving.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you tell we love surrogacy?
Oh, yes, I can. I love it. Like, oh my gosh, wait, is that like a surrogate sign behind you?
That's our logo. My husband got that made.
I just realized.
It's really cool.
And it's super cute. I love that. Oh my gosh. Gosh, your room is so cute. No, what I was gonna say is, when especially when you're a first time surrogate, like you were saying, like, we don't know a lot. And a lot of the time surrogates, I like to call us like the yes girls, because we're like, yeah, we want to do it. We want to get going. Especially if you're a first time surrogate, you're like, I will sign any paper you throw in front of me. I want to get this journey going. Like, and then you have to learn in your own experiences, which is really, really hard sometimes.
It is.
Which is why what you guys do and are able to provide the education to those first time surrogates, even experienced surrogates, because
we help a lot of experienced surrogates.
Yeah.
You
have
better
information from other surrogates that you can provide to them and be like, oh, you know what? And I love the fact that you guys vet the agencies. Like, because I think that's the hardest part for a surrogate.
And I think there are entities out there that are becoming surrogate advocates and trying to do what we're doing, but they're not vetting the agencies. They're going to accept any agency. And so when you have a surrogate who comes to you and is trusting that they're going to be presented these options, but really doesn't know to even ask the question, what does it mean to have a vetted agency? Then there's an opportunity to take advantage and really have her kind of come back to that process of like, what did I do? And we don't want that. We don't want these women to have regrets or to think like, dang, I wish I wouldn't have done this. That sucks. That's sad.
Incredibly sad. And so when you guys do vet agencies, is it how you had said before, like, do you accept them right off the bat if you hear nothing bad, or do they have how do you
so they have to fill out our questionnaire. It's pretty thorough, not too thorough because people won't fill it out if it's too long, but then the next step is to schedule a call and with us, a Zoom meeting with Casey and I, with the owners of the agency. If it's the director of the program, or if it's a case manager, or if it's their marketing person that wants to meet with us, we won't meet with them. We want to meet with the owner of the agency and share with them our expectations and ask them a ton of questions. Who holds their escrow? What attorneys do they like to work with? What clinics do they work with? Do they reimburse surrogates for expenses after the fact? Or do they give them their per diem in advance? Are they going to have the surrogate be, racking up a bunch of bills and then giving her monthly reimbursements at the end of the month? Or, how does that happen? How much does the escrow have to be funded? How much is your life insurance policy? 250,000. Okay. Are you willing to increase that? And then we look at their benefit package and we compare it to the other benefit packages that we've seen. And we say, this $500 embryo transfer fee is really low. I think you could probably increase that. Or this is really generous. This is great. That, this housekeeping allowance that you have is great. But here are some things that we make suggestions that say, you're not really competitive. Because at the end of the day, when surrogates look at their options, and they know that we're telling them that we vetted this agency and we know that you're going to have a good experience with any of them, it comes down sometimes to the benefit package, and they're looking side by side. So we've had agencies that we really, really like, and they're great, but their benefit packages are kind of skimpy. And if you put them side by side next to 5 others, and it's a difference in total of $10,000 or $15,000, and it doesn't matter how wonderful they are and how kind and how sincere and all those things. Sometimes people are just automatically going to swipe that off the table. So sometimes agencies will change their benefit package just for our surrogates so that they can be competitive in being selected.
That's super interesting. Okay.
And we want, here's the thing. When the surrogate goes to the agency, we don't just say, okay, good luck, surrogate. We've built this relationship with you. Our team, we have 23 employees on our staff, and they're all experienced surrogates. They all have done this themselves. They're building that relationship from day one. So when they get connected to the agency, they're still having that surrogate advocate checking in on, like, how are you doing? Do you have any questions? Do you have, are you having a hard time, filling out this paperwork? Is there anything that we can help you with? Answering those questions. Okay, I got presented this intended parent and they only have 1 embryo and that embryo is not genetically tested. Let's talk about it. Like, how do I proceed forward? Really being that voice in somebody who's done it before, to lean on through this process from day one until they deliver, and then on after. Because there's not a time that you need somebody. You want somebody there, building that relationship. So we have our surrogates take a survey, usually about 90 days from the day they are connected to their agency, asking them questions, how they're feeling. How was that matching process? Was that considered? Do you feel like that process through pre-screening was efficient? Did you get regular communication? Really thoughtful questions to understand, how did she feel when she was going through this? And then we go back to the agency, because we want to partner with our agencies. We aren't looking to have it just be do the job and take care of her. I want to make sure that these surrogates are having a good experience. If she's having a good experience, I'm holding up my promise to her. And that then turns to the agency. So we want to bring those things, that feedback, to the agency, and the ones that we love and that are doing the thing and see the value in that, we've truly partnered. And I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Joe, I have a surrogate who just said this, sent in a survey. It's anonymous. She chose not to say who it was, but here's how she's feeling. How can we do better? And they receive that feedback and they'll do it. Now we have agencies that don't, and then unfortunately we end up not continuing that partnership. But it really, the ones that are setting forth and wanting to do things, see the value in that.
It's almost like you're holding the agencies accountable for what they're saying they're going to do.
Crazy, huh?
I love it. Like, what a concept. So here's the next little elephant in the room. How does all this get paid for? Do you guys get a referral fee when you put a surrogate picks an agency? Or how does it work?
We get a referral fee. The agencies do pay our fee. Surrogates don't pay anything. The agencies pay us a referral fee once the surrogate is matched with intended parents.
Okay.
And the reason we're not, and I think that we have this reputation, or some agencies think this, or people assume, because they're not like you guys asking all these really thoughtful questions. How does this all work?
Yeah.
They assume that we're selling leads, or we're just collecting a referral fee and sending a surrogate and saying goodbye and wishing her luck to any random agency that will pay our fee. Like, there are agencies that have begged us to pay and will pay you triple your referral fee if you'll send us this many surrogates. But that's not how it works. We don't choose, the surrogate chooses. And it's the same for every agency every time. So once the surrogate's matched with intended parents, they've had their match call, the intended parent said yes, the surrogate says yes, and the IVF clinic has reviewed and approved her records, and she's approved to go forward to medical screening. That's when our referral fee is paid.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
cool though.
So the agency's going to collect her records. The agency's going to review the records. The agency's going to run her background and do a psychological screening. They're going to do all that necessary pre-screening to make sure it's safe for her to do surrogacy. And they're not invested in paying us until she is matched and the clinic has reviewed those records. And that's a huge component that we take all of that liability and responsibility to that point. To make sure that she's having a good journey in that expectation that we can.
And it's not right for everyone, and not everyone gets through pre-screening, and not everybody gets, to that finish line. I think one of the things that has come up with several agencies that we've ended up having to end relationships with is the way that they treat women who get close to that finish line and have put in the time, and they filled out all the paperwork, and they did all the things, and they did the background check, and they did the psych evaluation, and they did all of this, and then they find out something that she doesn't pass her psych, or something comes up, and they're like, we did the home visit. It looks like there's a lot of people living in the home. It doesn't look like it's a great home environment, and all these things. And there's, there's so many reasons why somebody might not make it to that finish line, but every single one of those women has a heart of gold for trying to get there. And she's still, even if now at this point, some agencies will treat her like, you're useless to me now because I can't match you and you're disposable. That's kind of the way that they feel when they send an agency will send them a text message and say, you didn't get approved, we can't work with you anymore, sorry, or a form email, rather than call her and say, hey, this is why this isn't the right time in your life for this, because these are some things that you would be going through that would be a real hardship for you. And it looks like your life is not super stable right now for these things. Like, give her the courtesy of having that conversation, because she's done so much to get to that point. And just because she doesn't get to match with your intended parents, and now you're not going to, I don't know, make any money off of her, she's still human, and she's still a mom, and she's going to have feelings. She's going to be disappointed. She's going to be sad. She's going to have her hopes dashed. And it's not that hard to pick up the phone and let her ask her questions and let her feel her feelings and give her that respect.
If a situation like that happens, and she picked an agency and she got all, and she didn't make the finish line like you guys are saying, does she have an option to come back and look at some of the other agencies?
Depending on what it is,
the reason,
and what the reason is. If it's that it's a clinic that works, an agency that works with really strict clinics where you need a BMI and there's all these high expectations, and maybe the thing is there are other agencies who work with other clinics who have different expectations, then we will explore that with her. However, the priority number one is it safe? And if the answer is no, and there's been something found that makes it not safe, we won't explore that. We're not doing her a justice by putting her in harm's way. I mean,
and giving her false hope again.
And we'll pick up the phone, and we'll go, even for every agency that we've been able to, they know our expectation. You pick up that phone, you call her, you tell her why. Our surrogate advocate after that call is going to call her and say, you know what? Thank you for your heart. Thank you for considering surrogacy. Thank you for even being interested in this, because what's going to happen is she's going to walk away feeling appreciated, at least, and valued through this. Maybe she's got a friend she wants to say, I couldn't do this, but gosh, you might be a great resource for this. And consider Surrogacy Is, because they see that we truly value each of the women that come through this process.
I was going to say, when we go back to, it's your, like you said, surrogates don't pay for this, and you guys only, I don't even like the word profit, I don't like that word, but like the agency gives you a referral, like a referral fee, right? That just shows like what you guys are like, because a lot of the times, they might not make it through, and but your hearts are there and you're in it for all the right reasons, because you're not doing it for the money. It's not about that. It's not about that at all. Because really, it's a gamble. Anytime a prospective surrogate wants to come, but you guys are always open to it. I have the goosebumps. Like, it's like the sweetest thing, because you guys care about them and show them, like you said, that they're appreciated. Because I think a lot of the times surrogates don't get that a lot from agencies. It's very, I'm not saying not every agency does that.
And and we don't advocate going independently, because there's so many things that could go wrong in that, right?
So many.
We truly advocate for an agency, because we know, as a case manager in the years that I've been doing this, same thing for Sunshine, we know how many things could go wrong if not done and managed accurately and safely. We know that there are those things. So advocating for somebody to go independently and crossing our fingers that she's going to have everything that needs to be in that contract, or that her bills are going to be paid, or that trust account is going to be fully funded. We don't know, right?
Right.
So there's a lot that goes into that. We also have a Facebook group that we created early on. I called it very early on the No Mean Girls Allowed.
I love you.
Because
that's the unofficial, like,
we have a lot of Facebook groups, and we have a few that are if you go in there and you ask a question, God forbid you don't have a PhD in surrogacy,
right?
You're not allowed to be in there asking that question. They're going to tell you need to go do 2 years of research, and that person is going to be beat down.
I thought that's what I was doing in this group.
Wow.
Exactly. It's so funny. We just talked about this yesterday for our Friday Facts pod that's coming out on Friday. And we were talking about how mean Facebook is. Instagram is where it's at. I want to stay with Instagram, because for some reason, Instagram surrogates are really supportive and kind. And more often, I see on Facebook, you can't ask a simple question because they won't tell you, or they're like, figure it out for yourself. And it's like,
why is it a mentality about it? I don't know. And it's very much like shaming. There's a lot of shaming around compensation. I especially like, oh, you're not doing it for the right reasons. Like, I 100% proud to say I did surrogacy for the compensation. That's why I did surrogacy. If it wasn't for the compensation, I would not have signed up to do it, because it's a crazy thing to do for somebody. That's a huge thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, all that being said, at the end of my first journey, like, I love my intended parents so much. I'm so grateful. I feel like I got so much more out of it than the compensation. I'm glad that I didn't have enough money to buy a house on my own, because I wouldn't have had that magical experience. Like, that day that the twins were born, it's still like my own children, like all these things, that day was still like the best day of my life. It was so magical. I never felt so like profound. There's nothing like it. There's really nothing like it.
Proud. It's something to be proud of.
That pride, that sense of accomplishment, that sense of like, I've done something so miraculous, and you're watching these parents hold their baby, and you're FaceTiming with these grandmothers that are crying because they never thought these babies were going to come. And you're like, I did that. That's cool.
Yep.
But there's no shame in doing it for the compensation. And all that being said, when I did my next journey, I asked for a lot more compensation, because I didn't realize how much was going to go into that. Like, I didn't realize my life was going to be disrupted and changed by surrogacy too. So there's no shame in requiring what makes it make sense for you to do it. And if there's a parent who sees that value and wants to compensate you that amount, now, I don't think it's right to say changing your compensation at legal contract, or after embryo transfer fails, you're going to renegotiate. That's cruel. That's holding parents hostage. That's not right. But having your expectations and being clear about them and not being manipulated to change them, I think is, I don't know why or how it became like so pervasive that that's wrong, and that surrogates need to be so selfless. Like, nobody should be so selfless that it's detrimental to their own life.
Right. And there's a lot that goes into it. And I want to second what you said, Sunshine, because I was a young mom as well. And I was a single mom, and I was like, how can I get a house in California? I have no idea. But I also grew up with surrogacy. So like it was kind of 50-50, but she warned me time and time again while I was a surrogate. She's like, you're going to do it again. Like, you're going to do it again. I was like, you're crazy. No, I'm not. I'm absolutely not doing it again. Saw them hold their baby. I was like, okay. And a year later, I got pregnant with my second surrogate baby. And like, but you're right. I absolutely agree. There is nothing wrong because you're not hurting anybody and everybody wins. Everybody wins and everybody's lives and families grow from that. So I hate that compensation. We talk about it a lot because nobody else wants to. I think compensation is a very important thing for surrogates. I have lots of opinions on it. We won't get into it.
If you want to wait around as an intended parent for a lot of selfless women to line up and crush those wait lists that intended parents are sitting on, like, you might as well just give up on the dream of having a baby. If you don't want to compensate somebody for that, it's insane what we do, even for compensation. I think most people, you could offer them $1 million and they wouldn't do it. So yeah, we could talk about that all day.
We really could. I know.
Yep.
But we do have a Facebook group that is over 1,000+ women in it. It's a closed group. It's for any of the women that we've helped and they're connected to the agencies we work with. And it's a safe place where you can ask a question and be met with kindness and sincerity every single time, even if that question's been asked 5 million times, because I think that really that's
the culture. That's the culture of the group that we created, because everybody's the same. Like, there are nobody in there. It's not their default to jump down somebody's throat. They never would. It wouldn't occur to them because they asked a question and they were confused and they were met with kindness and they want to give that back. And it makes me sad that we can't open the group up to more, like to all the surrogates, but we really want to keep it a safe place. So it's only for surrogates that we've supported and helped and that we've, spoken to. So all the women in there are women that we've helped, and it's growing all the time. And it's my pride and joy. It's my favorite place on the internet.
I love it.
I love that. I just have to, I have to ask, are you guys the monitors of that, or do you guys have like dedicated monitors?
We have a couple other monitors that help us because it is a lot to monitor. And if because we don't advocate for going independently, somebody might take our quiz, they might have that phone call, they might decide to shop their options and then put this process on hold, and then maybe a friend comes and says, hey, will you be a surrogate for me? We don't advocate for going independently. I can't control that narrative. I can't go to the agency and say, hey, what's going on? What is this? Why does a surrogate not have life insurance? So for us, we want it to stay the surrogates that we know are with our agencies. So unfortunately, if the surrogate, even if she's gone through our process, if she's going independently, we'll reach out to her and we'll tell her why she can't be part of the Facebook group.
And she still has our cell phone number,
her phone
cell phone number, and she can call. But we can't have her in there sharing her nightmare horror stories that go wrong, because it's setting the wrong tone for new women that come into our group and that are just starting and being like, that could happen to me. Like, no, that could not happen to you. That will not happen to you.
Different circumstances.
So when was it born? When was Surrogacy Is born? What year?
2020.
Okay.
Oh my,
so you're
bless your heart.
Still infantile. Okay. Wow. In 3 years, you have 1,000 people in your Facebook group?
How many do we have now,
We have 1,500.
Oh my God.
Now
it was like 15. It was like 1449 or something last time I looked.
We are connecting with and educating between 85 to 120 surrogates every month to their agencies.
Okay, I have to know your guys' surrogacy timelines then. When was your first surrogacy journey and when was your last?
Like for myself? Like personal?
Mine was first turned 13. So 10 years ago when I started that one. And then the second one was 3 years later.
Okay. And then when was your sunshine?
My first journey, the twins turned 7 in March. And then I had my next journey delivered in February of 2019. And then my final journey I delivered in April of 2021, I think, right?
Oh, okay. So
It's
you
just-
started this after your second journey, and you
Mhm.
were also
Pregnant.
pregnant when you were
Mhm.
so.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of how we were able to do it, because
Okay.
it's really expensive what we're doing. It's not, and it's not super profitable, but it is,
So necessary.
it's a passion project.
Yeah.
So we funded this with, my husband used to have an IT company. He sold it. And so for the first 2 years, we didn't even have, my husband and I didn't even have a salary. I think Casey was the only one, because we brought her out of a safe, comfortable job, and we're like, this is our dream. It's going to work. It's going to be fine. So we made Casey only,
Mhm.
for the first 2 years. Now we're fine. We're earning paychecks now.
Good. Good.
Good.
And
But we
all
weren't
these, you said there were 23 people with Surrogacy Is employees. Are they
Now
all
there
earning
are,
paychecks,
yes.
or is this a
They're all getting paychecks. Yes, they're all very
They're
well
all
paid. They're all
employees with 401k and insurance
That's
and
Wow.
amazing.
appreciation, immense appreciation.
because we're not doing this to make and I
No,
don't understand why there are so many agencies that are so understaffed, because I think, I don't know, maybe there's people at the top that are hoarding the wealth, but
Yeah.
everything that we earn through this, like, and it takes a long time. It takes a long
Yes.
time for a surrogate to get through exploring, learning, comparing agencies, shopping, connecting to the agency, going through pre-screening, and finally getting to match. It takes a long time before we ever get paid for that. So in the beginning, it was really hard, but we're crazy. Just admit
No,
it.
I love it. I love you
It's
guys.
amazing in 3 years, and majority of that being during COVID, like
Yeah.
that you made this profitable. And I hate to use the word profitable. I hate that word.
Well, we made
But
it
a sustained
solvent,
business.
at least.
There you go.
And that's kind of what led us into the agency side of things. Is we always told everybody that all of our agencies who had said, why aren't you an agency if you have all these candidates? Why aren't you just an agency?
Right.
We didn't want to go there. There are all these agencies popping up left and right.
Yeah.
We didn't want to be another agency. We wanted to come into this process with a desire to make a change and to do a difference in this process. And Surrogacy is the agency. And although we now have that as an entity.
Yeah,
So we
the cat's out of the bag. We started an agency. Gosh,
You
we said
did?
we wouldn't do it. We just started 4 months ago.
Oh
Okay.
my
And
gosh.
it's the same.
surrogates
It's the
still
same.
have choice.
They still have a choice, right? You're one of the
Still
ones.
have
Okay.
choice. We just give us
Sometimes
that
we're
as
an
an
option.
option. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so now explain that. So if a surrogate comes to you, right, and is like, hey, and you guys still do the, I don't know, intake
vetting
or
process,
whatever
but-
you want to call that, right?
Yeah.
And how does that work then? How does it go from there?
Same thing. So
thing.
we're gonna go through, make sure she qualifies. If she qualifies, she's gonna go to our agency option advisor, created that department.
Love
I love it.
And she's gonna go onto our matchmaker platform and portal and be able to see the agencies side by side that said yes to her. And we give details of what makes that agency special and unique, how long that agency's been in business, who the owners are, a link to their website, their benefit package, their mission statement, and the reason why we chose to work with them.
Okay.
And they get to see those side by side. And then they can compare and contrast which option sounds right for them. And then sometimes we're an option. So on that, we always want to give the surrogate a minimum of 3 options, but when we decide to throw our hat in the ring, she's going to have 4 options. So she'll have us with 3 other agencies. Surrogates don't always choose us, but they've built a relationship with us. And so they see the value in what we're doing and trying to make the change. I mean, the reason we've decided to be an agency is we have a lot of agencies that are doing it well. And at each of them, I found that there could be things that can be done better, supporting and checking in even when there's not an update, calling her and saying, hey, you know what? We're waiting on your records still. Those darn records. I'm sorry, but I called on this day and I called on this day. So she feels like there's movement even in those moments where that hurry up and wait is a true feeling for these women,
It is. Yep.
So as an agency, now we get to do those things that we expect our agencies to do. And I feel like we're constantly reminding, hey, check in on her. She's feeling neglected. She hasn't heard from anybody in 4 weeks. Like, give her a call or where you're at in their process. So
Yeah.
I to do that now. And not always does she pick us, but when she does, we are excited and to be able to manage and honor her through her journey and support her through the process.
The other thing that surrogates get when they come through our process too is they don't only get to compare these agencies that in the benefit packages are better, I think, than what other agencies are offering, or even some of the agencies offer on their own to surrogates that find them through them, because they want to get more referrals. And so they treat our surrogates well because we're going to be, you know, on their case.
Right.
So I think it is beneficial for the surrogate, especially most of all, because she still has her advocate. So at the end of the day, if something's not working out, she can call her advocate. And now we don't have power over these agencies. We can't make them do anything.
Right.
The really only power we have is to encourage them to do better and to help her advocate for herself. What we really want is to empower surrogates when they're like, this is what's happening. This doesn't feel good. What do I do? Like, we're not agency police. We don't run to the agency and be like, hey, how come you're doing this to this surrogate? You know, we empower her to say, that's okay to speak up and say that doesn't feel good. Somebody didn't call you for 2 weeks. That's okay to call them. Like, oh, well, I don't want to be a pest. I don't want to bother them. Well, bother them, because that's their job, is to help you. And so we empower the surrogates to advocate for themselves, and tell them what's normal and what's not normal. And every once in a while, something will happen and they'll say, hey, you know, like this has happened twice with 2 different agencies that we don't work with anymore, where a surrogate has said, I'm 8 weeks pregnant and I haven't gotten my life insurance policy in place yet. And we're like, what? No, you know, that's when we're on the phone with the owner and say, show me proof that the surrogate has life insurance. And now that this happened, show me proof that every surrogate that I've referred to you has life insurance. Like, I need to know that for everyone. I need you to audit that, because you can tell me this is a one-off, but I don't believe you at this point. That should never happen. And then they do, because I mean, nobody wants to have it out there that they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So it's a lot of, it's so difficult to navigate these relationships. It's really a lot of work. It's an emotional investment for all of us and for our team. Our surrogate advocates love their surrogates. Like, every surrogate that they talk to and that they support, they're always coming to us like tattling. If you have to say to them, like, they're like, she said this is happening. We have to be like, whoa. Sometimes surrogates misunderstand things too. And so we have to tell them, like, ask more questions, ask this question, you know, okay, I thought they weren't doing that, but they actually are. Like, okay, well, good thing we didn't call them and make an ass of ourselves yelling at them for something that is true.
And
so
giving
it's a lot of that.
And giving the surrogate perspective too, right? Because I know in my first journey, I didn't understand maybe why my parents didn't want to talk to me right away in the medical screening process. And they held out on talking to me through the legal process. And maybe they even held out on talking to me until they knew they were pregnant, because maybe they had gone through 5 miscarriages and they finally got pregnant and they had a loss at the very end. We don't know what these parents have gone through. And so sharing and giving that surrogate perspective and having her understand really where these parents are coming from, it helps them. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Okay, that makes sense. And then they go into it with a different mindset, and they're not angry like, well, why is my intended parent not talking to me? I want to break up the match. I want to have the right perspective. And that's really what we're trying to do, is bringing forth really that circle of education perspective, so the surrogate can have the best experience possible.
So working partnership is what I'm getting between you, Surrogacy Is, and these agencies that you're so passionate about, and so passionate with the surrogates, trying to get them where they're gonna be able to live their best surrogate journey. In whole, like their family, their everything.
Okay, so you're surrogate advocate, right? Is that their title? Okay, so they kind of stay with the surrogate throughout the journey, right?
Yes.
Okay, so are they like a second? Because sometimes when they're with agencies, like a case case manager,
manager.
right?
Mhm.
So are they technically going to have two now because they're going to have yours and no.
We want to reflect any questions when it comes to, okay, well, when's my medical screening and what is the expectation for this, or who should I be reaching out to? Any of those questions we want to reflect back to the agency.
Okay.
Because we're not licensed in being able to answer a question on what the clinic needs or the expectations of what that clinic or that attorney. We can give perspective on, if your benefit package is this and you've signed up for this,
Yeah.
that should stay the same when you get to legal. But take a look at what does it say about lost wages, about getting reimbursed if you got put on bed rest, giving them some insight to understand when they go to that legal process, because that's scary, right? Going to legal, the legal language can be very much overwhelming, or even knowing that you have an option on choosing your attorney, because a lot of agencies will say, here's your attorney, without understanding that you actually get choice in that, and you get to decide which attorney you want to work with and ask those questions. And your attorney isn't supposed to show up and say, okay, do you have any questions? Have you looked at the contract? No? Okay, go ahead and sign here. No, they're supposed to go over that contract with you.
Yes.
A good attorney, right? Attorney that cares about what they're doing is supposed to go through, have read that, have their own things they want to bring to your attention, and go through that with you line by line. And so that's where we come in. Surrogacy Is tells them that's how it should look. So when it doesn't look that way, they can say, hey, I thought I have choice on this. Hey, I thought my attorney was going to go through this contract and not just have me sign it and ask if I had any questions. No? Okay, let's figure that out. So that's really where Surrogacy Is comes in, as that resource, that buddy, that best friend that was a surrogate, who is there by your side to say, hey girl, no, that's not the way it should be. You need to go back and ask those questions.
Okay.
That's
Super helpful.
No,
super
it is.
helpful. I
Very,
mean,
very
I
helpful.
wish this was existed when I did it. It's like 21 years ago. Nothing like that. Here's your couple. Here's your legal. Like, it was just boom, 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 and bam, we get pregnant with triplets. You're like, what in God's green earth is going on here? Yeah. And then you have to deal with selective reduction. And then I'm like, oh my God, hold on. I didn't sign up for this. Yeah, it is a lot.
And they're like, no, actually you did. See,
right. I did.
Right.
I did. Yep.
And we haven't done it in a while because we've been really busy, but we used to get different professionals on, attorneys, IVF clinics, the professionals in the industry, and do webinars to talk about what is a legal contract, why is it necessary, what is the psychological screening, why is that necessary, why is it important to have a support person, why is it important that your husband be supportive of this, and you can't just say, I'm gonna do this regardless if he signs a contract. No, you actually have to have his support. You need to make sure he's supportive, or you have that support system in place, So we have a lot of content on our YouTube channel with webinars and resources, and we do a lot of storytelling, of telling the story from the perspective of a surrogate to the why she decided to do this and the change that did for her. Because I wish I would have had that. I wish I would have had that, I'm a mom, and that is my greatest joy. Being a mom is the one thing I can wholeheartedly say I'm proud of. But surrogacy is that thing that at the end of the day, I know I've accomplished a couple things that were great and wonderful, and I'm proud of myself for that. And if I could give that to every woman that decides I want to do surrogacy, that's what we set out to do.
And I feel you're doing it. It's like, gosh.
It's really cool to be at this place now where we wanted to do it, and now 3 years in, like we're really doing it. We're really doing the thing. And I think because at this point where we've been doing this for long enough now, that we've had surrogates that have delivered and are coming back for their second journey, and they're like, okay, I want to know what my new options are. Like, I loved my agency. I had a good experience, but I still want to see what my other options are. And sometimes they go back to their original agency, but sometimes they want to try something different. And we can show them that. And now some of our surrogates are like, what? You're an agency? Why didn't you tell me? I've already had another journey. And like, we're trying to go at a pace that's slow and measured, and we don't want to grow just for growth's sake in our journey. We really want to do everything. We don't want to do what a lot of agencies do, which is bring in more surrogates than they can support, not have the staff to support them, and then drop the ball. Like, we never want to drop the ball. So
the overhire,
slow and steady.
We have 2 intake coordinators, somebody reviewing records. Our case managers are only going to manage 25 cases max. And because then we know that these women are going to be supported and these
And the parents
are going to be supported.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's our priority.
And the word of mouth that's going to go out after that is shown that this is what this agency does is going to come back at you 100 times fold. It is because you've got the best right now of both aspects of what we've been trying to tell people about. Like, listen, do your research, do this, make sure you pay attention. But to go to Surrogacy Is, and I like have a one-stop shop and have you guys kind of do the nitty gritty and show them, listen, here, now you get to pick here. Like, I don't know. I'm just speechless because it's such a phenomenal idea.
Oh my God,
really
it's a wonderful idea. Your website has a lot of information and expectations for partner agencies to adhere to, but one of 2 statements really stood out. It's also super important to know we're not trying to create divas here, just helping surrogates be considered fairly. Can you share a little on why this statement came to be? I love that.
That's what I was talking about. You just like threw it out there. I'm like, I love this. Like,
I think it came down to just the idea that I think agencies have this perspective if a surrogate is asking questions or has some thoughts or opinions about their benefit package, that they're automatically a diva. And that's not the case, right? She is allowed to ask the questions and know the process, but we wanted to really put forth this process of we are going to put perspective and give these women choice. And that really hasn't existed before. So it's in this place of understanding. Now we're giving it back to her. She has a control to know what the differences are, what the benefit of choosing this agency over another agency. We have the stats of how our agencies operate as far as their speediness, that pre-screening. Maybe a surrogate's like the compensation isn't necessary, but I want an agency that can move fast, and we want to give that perspective. We want to share that with them.
So cool. And sometimes a surrogate, we've talked to agencies, sometimes we'll have this initial interview and they'll be like, we had a surrogate that came to us and said, she wants 80,000 in compensation. And we told her, keep on moving. We're not the agency for you. Like, why is that? Why did you feel so strongly that it's not reasonable for a surrogate to ask for 80,000 for compensation? And if you feel like that is too much, like, I don't know, it's not, I don't think it's too much, but
no, it's not.
I don't. It's
sometimes
not.
we're huge. We love to have the controversial conversations because nobody has them. But absolutely, I think especially being a surrogate in California, and I have no problem stating what I've made as a surrogate. My third compensation was around 80 to 84. And I think that was completely fair for everything that I could bring to the table as a surrogate. I did my research. I knew everything, but I mean, I think every surrogate should get whatever they want, honestly.
As long as they qualify and somebody is willing to. So another thing that we try to do with surrogates is give them perspective and think of things as like, I hate to say supply and demand, but say you're a surrogate that's in an area that's rural and you're going to have to travel far distance for monitoring, and you're not near a level 3 NICU, and you that's going to eliminate a lot of things. For some intended parents can't afford those travel costs and those additional things. Say you are a surrogate that is unwilling to let parents make decisions regarding termination for the baby. Like, that you're no term for anything unless your life is at risk. That's just going to eliminate a large portion of the intended parents that are available to you to match with. So then when you add on other things, we try to explain it to our surrogates as like a basket of items that kind of make you your profile more complicated and eliminate the options of intended parents that you have to match with. That maybe your BMI is over 30 or over 32. That's going to eliminate so many clinics from being able to work with you. So now you can only work with parents who are at these clinics that are going to accept this BMI, and only parents at this clinic that can accept this BMI who are not going to terminate their baby. And are comfortable with this traveling of this distance. So all of these things, they just eliminate options for you as far as intended parents. And so if you're going to add on into that list of things, also I want $100,000 for my base compensation.
Right.
Like I want to be realistic with surrogates and explain to them, like, I want you to have everything that you want, but sometimes that's not realistic for you,
Exactly.
you know, based on all of these things, but explaining to her why that is, because if you just tell someone like this surrogate got $100,000 and this surrogate got $45,000 and they did the same thing, they did, but this surrogate had
didn't want to
so
be
many
vaccinated
parents and so many clinics and so many options that she could work with. And this surrogate had this smaller selection or pool of intended parents that could match with her. And so you have to, there's a give and take. And so you can't have everything that you want all the time.
You can't.
The funnel narrows as you add things. But I still don't want people to compromise. Like, say you don't want to get the COVID vaccine, and that eliminates a lot of options too. I don't want you to compromise because you want the higher compensation or because you want to match faster. If something at the end of the day is against your values or something that you're not going to feel good about, or you're going to feel resentful, don't do it. Wait. Like, it's okay, you know, to wait. But we still want to give them that information, because sometimes there's people that are like, well, you know, I just hadn't really thought about it. I didn't want to do it. I'm not vaccinated. And then agencies will say, okay, we can't work with you because you're not vaccinated, rather than take the time to explain to them, this is what, you know, the doctors are recommending. This is why, this is what options you're going to have. We have agencies that will work with surrogates who are not vaccinated for COVID. We have more now than we used to. We used to just have 1 or 2. Now we have like 10 or 12. But that, you know, letting them know this agency that accepts surrogates that are not vaccinated for COVID has this benefit package. And the one that has the benefit package that you really, really want requires a COVID vaccine. So it's important that you go and now you have this information and you can think about what's important to you, and then you can make an informed decision.
Yeah. And
I have that information.
I can definitely attest to that. Cause I mean, I've like I just said, I've been on this journey for a year. I literally just hit my year mark last week, and it's because of, I know what I want to get out of it. And like, it's fine. I knew I had to wait, and I'm okay with waiting, because I don't want to compromise a journey for, you know, cause I had a really bad one, my last one. So I don't want to make any I don't want to compromise on things that I know could possibly affect the happy outcome of a journey for everybody involved. And so but it is hard for surrogates to wait. It's so hard. And we just want to go, like, you sign up and it's like, okay, so like embryo transfer the next day, right? Like we can do this in 24 hours. I'm ready. Like, let's do it. Like, that's every surrogate.
We hem and haw, and we wait, and we're not ready, and we're doing our research. And then we're like, okay, let's do it. Yeah. And then we're like, yesterday, after we dragged our feet for a long time. I know.
Yeah. It's, but that's and only surrogates understand that draw of surrogacy, like the pure love and joy that like comes out of journeys that can, I don't want to say that does, but can come out of journeys. Like it is
You're in a special club. And it's fun. My favorite part, after talking with the surrogate and she's delivered, is talking with her about D-Day. And I'll get emotional every single time I talk with these women. It doesn't ever get old, because it's something special. And it's like, you did that. Like, how, you know, you did that.
How do you feel?
How do you feel through that? And it truly is. It's special. Really special.
It's a very
superpower.
Superpower.
Hurry up and wait. I joke and say when I'm talking with these women, listen, you're not going to be pregnant tomorrow, because in our mind, we want to be pregnant tomorrow. It takes time. And typically, if it's done right, if it's done with thoughtfulness and really vetting everybody, it's between like 4 and 6 months before you're physically pregnant, because the records take a lot of time. There's a lot of hurry up and wait when you get to finally your match potentially with the parents, but the clinic has to review those records that now are taking 4 weeks or plus longer, you know. Then it's the medical screening that's going to be another few weeks, and then it's the legal, that's another 4 to 6 weeks. There's a lot of hurry up and wait in this process. So if we take a little bit more time to really educate and explain and guide and support and love these women, I guarantee you she is going to be so much more happy through this process to be that better surrogate that these agencies, that darn surrogate that's not listening and not doing the thing we needed. Maybe she's going to be like Sunshine, where nobody told her how to do the medication and just sent her a box of medications and said, do the shots. Like there are those situations that happen where an agency isn't going to tell, or the IVF clinic isn't doing the education to explain those things. And that is where, if you support the surrogate and you give her all those resources, she is going to be a surrogate that's really
Going
ready
to be
to
successful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's going to advocate for herself, I think, because she keeps hearing it from Surrogacy Is that, hey, you're allowed to ask questions. It's no question is a wrong question or a silly question. Advocate for yourself. And that's, I think, our premise from day one has been just advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it
I
seems like
think-
you're allowing it.
I think too, like when people start to think that maybe a surrogate's becoming a diva or she's being greedy, you know, you hear that a lot. When she's like nickel and diming for things, or she's like, oh, she submitted for these lost wages, but she didn't really miss this time and she's doing it. I think that women do that when maybe they agreed to a compensation and they didn't realize how much was going to go into this. And then they're like, this isn't worth it. I'm going to say these prenatal vitamins cost $50 instead of $22 or whatever it was that they cost. Like, that's a shady and crappy thing to do, but
Yes.
people don't do that. I think if you were able to ask for the compensation that you felt like you deserved,
Yeah.
then you wouldn't do those things,
Right,
because
correct.
you feel like you're being compensated fairly. And so empowering the surrogate to feel good about what she's getting is going to prevent those types of things that break trust and that
Yes.
help, you know, cause a surrogate to have her intended parents and her agency lose faith in her, because
Yes.
she's feeling like she can't ask and she can't be forthright about what she's feeling or what she needs. And so then she does subversive things like that. Like,
Right.
it's not because she's a bad person or because she's
Mhm.
greedy, because she's a diva. It's because
Right.
she wasn't empowered. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where all of that comes from, I guess.
And if I could, I just want to add on to that, because you were like, you know, sometimes we're portrayed as divas or greedy. And oftentimes, I've been called a problem. But what I've noticed is I'm not a problem. I have a voice, and that's a problem, because surrogates are very scared to advocate for themselves, because they're a lot of the times because they're afraid that they're going to be called a diva, be called, you know, be looked at as your
I don't want to be the squeaky wheel. Yeah, you are going
Right.
to be the squeaky wheel. I want you to be, because that is what's going to get you your answers. And you're a diva for asking those questions. That's their job as the agent.
Now, that doesn't mean be disrespectful, or
Correct.
I
I was
emailed
just
my
gonna
case
say that.
manager at 7 p.m. on Friday to ask her about this, and she didn't respond until Monday about refunding your parking validation, or if
Right.
that was $2 or whatever.
Right.
Like, some things are important right now. Some
Right.
things can wait
Yeah.
until Monday. You know,
Yeah,
not
like-
everything is
Exactly.
balance.
If there's a medical problem that's happening and it's late at night or something, absolutely, you got to call somebody, you got to get on that. But if it's like a reimbursement thing and it's the weekend, you can wait until like 8 a.m. Monday morning. It's totally fine. Like, there's always ways to have
8
conversation.
a.m. Tuesday morning, because there might be things that are more priority that
Right.
you know, just
True.
understanding that your case manager is having lots of things, and that doesn't mean she's ignoring you. Although I do think it's important for agencies to respond to communication within one business day. I think that
Like
is, even if it's to say, I see this, it's
Yeah.
on my list, I'm going to get to this, you know,
Yeah.
even if I can't get to it right now, and then they snooze it and set an alert to get to it later.
Yeah.
That's fine too. But yeah, you know, it's helping surrogates to understand that, like, you're not the only surrogate on this, and you're not the only journey that this person is managing. Your case manager is also human, and at nighttime she has a family, and on the weekends she has a family, and
Exactly.
sometimes she's dealing with somebody who's having a miscarriage, and so your thing
Yeah.
might not be top priority right now, but
Right.
so it's all perspective. But
Yeah.
I think if you communicate that, nobody's going to be like mad at you. If your case manager tells you, maybe you're irritated if your case manager says, I'm dealing with a couple of things today and I'm going to get to this by tomorrow at noon. Or if she says, I'm going to get to this by Thursday, you'd be okay until Thursday, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. It's the acknowledgement. And like you said, like there's no need to be disrespectful. Like there's always a way, even if you don't agree with something that's happening, there's always a way to go have a respectful conversation about it. Like it's just common.
100%. Well, and I will tell surrogates regularly too, if they have like, my case manager didn't respond back to me the same day or the next day. I'll say, listen, when I was a case manager, I stopped being a case manager because my kids wanted to divorce me, because it is an on all day long full-time thing. It is a little thing to be a case manager. It takes a lot of energy. And so to give that perspective, she's a mom too. She's probably at soccer practice with her kid at 6 o'clock on the evening, homework with them.
You're like, did you see that goal? You didn't, because you were on your phone. Like,
yeah.
So, and it's just giving that perspective. And as a case manager, one of our goals with our team is building that relationship with the case manager and the surrogate. So now we're friends. You know what I'm about and who I am and what I do on my weekends and what I enjoy doing with my kids. Because then when you have that question, you might stop before asking it at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and you'll wait until the next day.
That's right.
No, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's all about getting perspective.
Remembering everybody's a human, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. And a lot of us, like you said, a lot of us are moms. Like I would say probably like 98% of case managers and like people in the surrogate world are moms.
Yep.
So it's a lot.
Or dads.
Or dads.
Yeah. Or dads.
Well, yes. Sorry. But are the surrogacy steps in the process to become a surrogate with Surrogacy Is? Like, where do you go? How does that all get started?
Not the agency aspect of it, but the other side. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
everybody comes through the same process.
Okay.
You can't come to Surrogacy Is as an agency without going through our
We're
process.
gonna still give you options.
Like even my friend, I have a good friend who's a surrogate through us now. She's like, I just want to go through your agency. And I was like, no, I'm going to show you your options. She's
That's
like,
cute.
okay, fine. Show me my options so I can choose you. And she did, but she really did consider it. I was like, you need to talk to your husband about this and show him your other options, because this is a group decision where, you know, you guys need to consider it. So if you want to be a surrogate and you want to have Surrogacy Is as a resource, you go to our website, surrogacy.is. You can click on the link through our Instagram or through our Facebook too. And there's a big button that says, take the quiz to see if you qualify. And see if surrogacy is right for you. So you click that button, you take that quiz. It takes about 8 minutes to get through. It asks a lot of questions. And at the end, if you meet the basic qualifications for surrogacy, it will give you an opportunity to schedule a one-on-one call with a surrogate advocate. So one of the things that's kind of a drawback, because our surrogate advocates don't just take those initial calls, they're also supporting all of the women that they've ever helped all the time. It's that our appointments book up really fast. So we do have, I think right now, we always have 1 or 2 people on maternity leave at any given time. I think we have 7 full-time surrogate advocates right now, if they're all
here
not pregnant or not on maternity leave. And they can take about 6 appointments a day, and they book out about 2 weeks in advance. So I think one of the things I would want to say to people is, if you take that quiz and you can schedule a call and you have to wait 2 weeks, it's worth waiting for that. But also your surrogate advocate's going to leave you a voice, call you, text you, and give you the opportunity to say, hey, when you have a cancellation, get me in sooner. And we can probably get you in that same week. Because we always have cancellations and always things get shifted around. So book your appointment. If it's 2 weeks out, be the squeaky wheel and say, give me in, and we will. Yeah. Somebody will say, hey, do you have an opening? She really wants to talk to someone today. And one of our surrogate advocates will be able to talk to you. So we can almost always do that. And then you schedule that call with your surrogate advocate. She asks you a bunch of questions. She asks you why you want to be a surrogate. What are your, what questions do you have? What fears do you have? Have you thought about this for a long time? Did you just see an ad on Facebook and you clicked it and you know nothing? Like, where are you at in this process? And so we can spend that time getting to know and say, okay,
how does insurance work? How many pregnancies you've had? Understand, do you have any history of anxiety, depression? Do you have,
do you know that you're going to have to travel for your embryo transfer and your medical screening? Are you aware that, you have a choice in who you're going to match with? And there's so
about
many things.
embryos, you know, do you know what it means to have parents that have genetically tested embryos, and what does that look like? Really just like diving into a full understanding. If she's gonna decide if she wants to do surrogacy, this is the time that she's going to do it. She's going to get all of those things to know, is this something I see myself doing? Or, whoa, I had no idea what was involved.
Let me process this. Let me take some
Right.
Sometimes we'll have women that will take the quiz and they will have that first call and they'll say, okay, I don't know. Like, this is a lot. I didn't realize I was going to have to give myself injections. I didn't realize I was going to have to travel. And we ask them, what if you got pregnant and you had complications and you were put on bed rest and you had to take time off of work and someone has to do your laundry for you and you can't pick up your toddler and all those things. Who are the people in your life that are going to be there for you? Who's your people that will help you? When you have to fly for embryo transfer and say the couple you match with has one of these crazy doctors that wants you to have 5 days of bed rest and you can't fly home. Like, who do you trust overnight with your children because they can't come with you? Who are those people? And so they have to think about that and process that. And then they say, okay, I'm going to talk about this with my partner or with my mom or whoever my people are and say, what do you think? Like, is this crazy? Sometimes their partners will get on the phone too and talk with a surrogate advocate, or my husband will get on the phone and talk with husbands and answer all their questions. And he's really frank, like, cause he was terrified of me being a surrogate in the beginning. So he talks to husbands all the time. And, you know, we want to make sure everybody's comfortable. And then from that point, if they say, okay, you answered all the questions, I qualify, I want to do it. Or I'm not sure if I want to do it, but I do want to see what my agency options are. So then she'll send her photos, we'll put her profile together, we'll send it to the agencies, we'll show her options. And then from there, she has her options. She has them in her portal, and then she can choose when she's ready and she can.
So you send her profile out to agencies. Agencies push a yes or no button, and then that's when you get your feedback.
Yep.
Which
and we go over those options.
They set their compensation too. So they say, based on her profile, like say for instance, this is a surrogate who's had 2 vaginal deliveries. She lives in a city that's super close to IVF centers that we work with. Her BMI is under 30. She's under 35, you know, all these things that make her an ideal candidate for some of these really high level clinics. Sometimes the agencies will be able to offer a base compensation that is significantly higher for some candidates and not so much for others, that they're like, okay, I can only think of, like, it's going to take a while for me to find that right intended parent for this surrogate. So I think we'd be better if we just set her compensation at 40,000 for a base, or whatever, you know, it is.
45. Yeah.
So that then she gets to see those options. And they usually write a personal note to her after reading her profile and say why they're interested in working with her and what she'll get from their agency. And so they get to take their time and look at them.
And these are all things that we've coached them to do, because it's not in nature for that. I'd like to say that it is, but that empathy that comes through this process is like, she's a human and she's excited and she is looking at her options and she's choosing you. So you need to put your best foot forward. You need to put your bow tie on. You need to make sure your hair is done, and you need to show up, and she's going to get to pick which agency she wants. And it's fun because then when we've given her options, she can compare those. Now we get to set that expectation of what's expected of her, because we want her to understand that these agencies are going to evaluate her readiness, her responsiveness. Is she a good communicator? Is she making an appointment and then not showing up? Because they're investing a lot into this too. The agency is going to collect all those records. That takes time and money that goes into it. They're going to run her background. They're going to do a psychological screening. They're investing so much to her to make sure that she's qualified and it's safe for her to do surrogacy. So putting that perspective to the surrogate to say, listen, like, now you've chosen, but here's next what I need you to do. You're going to call and you're going to respond when we make this introduction email, and you're going to tell the agency how excited you are to move forward with them and when you're available to talk, because they're going to want to get on the phone with you and have a conversation and start that dialogue. So then we get to encourage and coach her through that. Our agencies will say, the surrogates that come from Surrogacy Is, they don't have to convince that surrogate, that lead that they just found on their own, why surrogacy is right for them. These surrogates are like, where's my medical release form? Where's my consent forms? I'm filling out my profile, because they know what's expected and what's next for them.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. And to add to that, So I have a question. I have like a follow-up question. So when the surrogate gets shown, they get shown agencies to pick from, not the profiles that are from the agencies of the IPs, correct?
No,
just agencies.
Okay.
No, and they used to try. We had an agency that used to do that and be like, "Look at this IPs. Aren't they sweet?" Like, you don't know how long it's going to take for her to get through. You don't know if she qualifies for their clinic. I don't want a surrogate choosing an agency based on an IP profile for an IP that's probably not going to be available by the time she's ready.
Right.
I want her to choose the agency based on their location, the clinics they work with, how, what's their ethos, what's their communication style, what's their package, because there's tons of parents on the waiting list at all of these agencies. You'll have your pick of wonderful parents, but I want you to choose first what's best for you, not some heartstrings of an intended parent.
Right.
Fair. No, that's completely fair. And you're right. I told my brain also blinked, like they're not psychologically cleared yet. They're, they haven't done all the other things. They've done their kind of like initial intake of like, okay, I want to be a surrogate. And
they've answered honestly, hopefully, most of the things to the best of their knowledge about their pregnancy history and their mental health history and their criminal history and their smoking and drugs and all those questions that we ask them, and let them know that these are actually going to be verified, trust but verified.
Right.
So they know that all those things are going to be done. But of course, sometimes, women, our OBs are not always straightforward with us about what happened during our own pregnancies and labors and deliveries. And we think that was normal because it was my only pregnancy and delivery. I thought everybody had preeclampsia. I was like, no, everybody does not. I just thought I had a couple high blood pressure readings. I didn't know I almost had a stroke, like,
Jesus Lord.
They don't tell you that because they don't want your blood pressure to spike, because they're, just don't always tell you how severe or dangerous things are. My sisters, everybody I know, like I've never been able even to refer a surrogate because everybody I know has had complicated pregnancies. They're like, I wish I could be a surrogate. It's very common to have complications. And they didn't realize that, like I delivered at 34 weeks, but baby was healthy. Like, no.
Right.
No.
That one's a little too early. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You gave how to get on the website at surrogacy.is.
Because we can't do anything normal. We want to do things extraordinary.
That
was a Kyle thing.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Like, honestly, thank you so much. You guys are just, you guys amazing. Are wonderful inside and out. You're just amazing. And what you're doing is phenomenal. And it's only going to grow.
It's rewarding work.
Yeah. Wish I could go back 30 years and do it all over again, but with all the resources.
Me too. I wish I could do it again. I'm out of the game. I'm over 40 with 3 C-sections under my belt, so I'm done.
Well, you don't look it, that's for sure, though.
I'm glad, though. I'm really glad I had that 3rd C-section, because otherwise, I would have been tempted to
do it again. Yep. Well, thank you so much for your time, ladies. It's been a delight. It really has. It really has.
Thank you.
Good luck in all the endeavors that are coming.
You too.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, they're like, I love them. Like, you could just feel how much they love surrogates and people.
Yeah. They're doing a great job.
So thank you so much, ladies, for coming on and sharing about Surrogacy Is. This is just
lovely,
phenomenal. Just, oh my gosh. But I know this is long, so we're going to wrap it up. If anybody has any stories or questions that they would like to share, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Stop.Sit.Surrogate.
It's been another edition of Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Bye, guys.